One of my favorite sayings that I tell my students is that if you're not submitting offers, you're not closing any deals. This is also in the same vein of saying that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So let's just say that you analyze one property every single day for the next 30 days. At the end of every week, you should be submitting at least an offer on one or two of those properties that make the most sense for your investment model and what you're ultimately looking to purchase. Eventually, I encourage you to submit an offer on every single property that you analyze because there is a price that's going to make it work regardless of what the listing price is. When you analyze a property and have the confidence in the projected returns that you can achieve with a given purchase price, then you're going to want to reach out to the real estate agent, write up your offer, and get that submitted to a seller. Every offer you submit on a piece of real estate is going to include a purchase price, the amount you intend on financing, as well as your down payment amount. It'll also include an earnest money deposit amount, your projected closing date, as well as any contractual contingencies that you want to include in your offer, which makes it conditional on satisfying those contingencies. The most common contingencies that you'll include in your purchase agreement includes an inspection contingency, which gives you the right to thoroughly inspect and complete your due diligence on the property within an allocated time. There's also a financing contingency, which will allow you to terminate the agreement if you're unable to attain the loan that you're offering to buy the property with. You can also include an appraisal contingency, which would allow you to terminate the agreement if your property doesn't appraise for at least the amount of your purchase price. All of these contingencies are wise to include because they protect you from being forced to buy the property without having completed your due diligence or have a firm commitment from your lender that you're able to get the loan. Your earnest money deposit that you include in your offer is typically refunded to you if you terminate the agreement within any of these contingency periods. Therefore, it doesn't cost a dime to send an offer. It just takes a little bit of research and hustle to get the offer presented to a seller. Let's say you submit 10 offers in a span of 30 days and they're all at purchase prices that would make you hit your cash-on-cash return requirements on properties that you'd be interested in adding to your portfolio. Even if 9 of those get rejected, all you need is one yes to land a great deal that can potentially change your life. So submitting offers is one of the most important activities that you should be doing as a real estate investor. Here at Real Estate Skills, we love to say that an offer a day keeps the job away. Set weekly goals for submitting written quality offers that you can commit to so that if any of them get accepted, you'll be in a great spot to buy a great deal that makes sense for you. In our Ultimate Investor program, we do a weekly accountability call every Monday where we share our goals for the week and recap our past week, and we set our intentions for the number of offers and contracts we intend on submitting this coming week. Get yourself an accountability partner so that you don't just leave it up to yourself to take action on a regular basis. Otherwise, it's too easy to make excuses. As for physically writing up the purchase agreement, if you're working with the real estate agent, fortunately, they have access to all the latest realtor purchase agreements that are commonly used in your market. So your agent will be able to take your price and terms and translate it onto the legal paperwork required to submit your offer and hopefully get a property under contract with the seller. This is one of the great things about working with the real estate agent. It's that they can handle a lot of the transactional paperwork on your behalf so that you can focus your time on finding and analyzing rental properties and leveraging them to make multiple offers at a time. Along with your offer contract, you always want to submit a pre-qualification letter that demonstrates that you have the capacity and access to funds to successfully close the deal. You want a pre-qualification letter at least in the amount of your offer price. If you're fortunate enough to not need a mortgage, or if your offer contains a large down payment, then you'll also want to submit a proof of funds to demonstrate to the seller and the agent that you have enough cash to close the deal. Step number 6 is closing the deal. Eventually, after submitting enough offers, you'll get an accepted contract, which means you're now opening escrow and on the path to close your very first investment property deal. Congratulations, as this is a huge milestone in every investor's journey to financial freedom. We always celebrate offers getting accepted, and I think every investor remembers their first escrow. From the moment you get your offer accepted, all the way to closing, you need to pay attention to what is actually in your purchase agreement because it serves as a roadmap for your obligations as the buyer, as well as the seller's obligations as the seller. You want to make sure that you complete your property inspections as soon as possible so that you can firm up your commitment to buy the property or potentially back out if there's significant problems with the deal that weren't previously disclosed to you by the seller. Your property inspection is extremely important, and I always recommend new investors hire a professional inspection company to conduct a thorough review of every aspect of the property. you definitely don't want to be purchasing a property that has significant problems because renovations can get complex if you don't know what you're doing. This is why it's important to get an inspection done and have a physical inspection report, because you can also use this as leverage to ask for a better purchase price or even a credit at closing, or perhaps negotiate that the seller repair certain aspects of the property prior to you closing on it. If you're buying a property that already has a tenant in place, then you're going to want to review and inspect all of the current leases on the property to make sure that it aligns with everything that you've been told about the property. In addition to a physical inspection, you should also be inspecting the financials of the property to make sure that they are in alignment with what you assumed during your analysis prior to submitting an offer. We can never assume that the numbers and facts that we gather from an MLS listing or the seller are 100% accurate, so we need to trust but verify every single time. Besides the inspection, you want to make sure that you are checking in with your loan officer daily to ensure that that loan is moving forward as quickly as possible. I'll tell you, from my experience, loan officers and mortgage companies are notoriously slow and often cause delays for closing, which can be very stressful, especially if a seller is giving you a hard time for causing delays. Your lender will be asking you for every financial document that you can imagine, from pay stubs to tax returns, credit scores. You want to make sure that you're responding to them quickly so that you're not the reason that your loan gets delayed by any means. Your lender will also order an appraisal, which means you'll probably have to pay for it out of pocket. But what an appraisal is that they'll have someone go out and conduct an analysis of the property and the market and ultimately determine how much they think the property is worth. If your appraisal comes in at or above your purchase price, then you're in good shape and you can remove your appraisal contingency. If your appraisal comes in lower than your purchase price, then this is an opportunity to negotiate a lower purchase price, or you might have to come out of pocket to cover the gap if you're unable to negotiate a price reduction. This is why the appraisal contingency is important, because if the seller's not willing to budge on the price and your property doesn't appraise, then you can terminate the agreement and walk away without any consequences. So once you've removed all your contingencies, then you'll be closing on the property on your scheduled closing date. Make sure you review the settlement statement in detail to ensure that you understand all the costs involved with closing on the property and that there aren't any unnecessary fees that you're unaware of. If you were able to negotiate any seller credits, make sure they're on the closing statement. Sometimes escrow and the title company can miss these things, so it's up to you to ultimately check the settlement statement so that it accurately reflects the transaction that you're closing on. One of my secrets to ensuring the most cash flow from a rental investment is to begin advertising my rental before I actually own the property. If possible, you want to get the seller's approval to begin advertising the property if you're buying a home that's vacant and rent ready, so that you can start generating leads for your potential tenants who can move into the property shortly after you become the owner of it. Vacancy is one of the biggest expenses in real estate because you're not collecting any revenue if there isn't an active tenant in the property. So I always make it a point to begin advertising and showing and even signing leases on a property before I become the owner so that I can have a tenant move in as quickly after closing as possible. I once purchased a 10-bedroom house near a college campus that I was able to lease each individual bedroom within the 30-day escrow period. And I was even signing leases and collecting security deposits before I removed all my contingencies and was for sure buying the property. It was a stressful time and it was definitely a bit of a risk, but it all worked out in the end and I was able to have a fully occupied property with 10 signed leases and I was already collecting rent just 4 days after closing.